The boy grew up hearing the same handful of sentences about money, repeated everywhere he went. They came from kind people, his elders, his neighbors, the tired men in the taverns, the ones who loved him and wished him well. And every one of them said these things with total conviction, as though they were passing down hard-won wisdom. Work hard, play it safe, be content with what you have. The boy absorbed them the way every child does, without question. Because when everyone around you believes the same thing, it stops looking like an opinion and starts looking like the truth. But as he grew older and began to watch how money actually moved through Florence, something troubled him. The people who repeated these sentences most faithfully were the poorest people in the city. They believed this advice completely. They lived by it exactly, and it kept them precisely where they were, year after year, generation after generation. The wisdom that was supposed to lift them never did, and the wealthy men he studied, the ones who had actually built something, did almost the opposite of what the common wisdom preached. That was when a dangerous question first entered the boy's mind. What if this advice was not failing by accident? What if it was never meant to make you rich at all? Now, the boy was careful here, because it would be easy to imagine a room full of villains somewhere, plotting to keep the poor in chains. That is not what he found, and it is not what is true. The truth is simpler, and in a way more unsettling. There is no secret room. There is only this. Every piece of advice serves someone, and it is almost never the person hearing it, because advice does not spread through the world by being true. It spreads by being useful to whoever repeats it. A master benefits when his workers believe certain things. A seller benefits when his buyers believe others. And most people passing this advice along are not villains at all. They are simply people who were told the same lies, believed them, and now repeat them in good faith, handing down their own cage as though it were an inheritance. The advice survives not because it helps you, but because it helps the world extract from you. And so the world keeps saying it. And this gave the boy a single tool, sharper than any other, for cutting through it. Whenever he heard a piece of money advice, he learned to ask one question, and one question only. Who benefits if I believe this? If the honest answer was not me, he set the advice down and looked at it very carefully before picking it up again. So, let us take the most common money advice there is, the sentences you have heard your whole life, and ask that one question of each, starting with the one taught most lovingly of all, by the very parents who want the best for you. The first piece of advice is the one taught most lovingly of all. Study hard and get a good, secure job. Every parent in Florence who loved their child said some version of this, and the boy understood why. It comes from care, from a wish to see the child safe. But he asked his one question of it anyway. Who benefits if you believe this? And the answer was not the child. The answer was everyone who needs a supply of obedient, predictable workers. Because look closely at what this advice actually trains a person to do. It teaches you to be reliable, to follow instructions, to show up, to trade your hours for a wage, and above all, to value security over ownership. It produces an excellent employee. It never once teaches you to own the thing the employee works inside of. The boy noticed that no wealthy family in Florence raised its own children on this advice. They did not tell their sons to find a secure position and serve faithfully for 40 years. They taught them to own, to build, to command. Get a safe job was the advice the powerful gave to other people's children, the ones they would later need to employ. It is not evil. It is simply advice that serves the one who needs workers far more than it serves the worker. A city that ran on people chasing ownership would have no one left to do the laboring. So the laboring is what most people are quietly taught to aspire to. The second piece of advice sits right beside the first and sounds even nobler. Work hard and you will be rewarded. The boy had already learned, watching the porters and stone carriers, how false this was. That effort has a ceiling and does not make a man rich by itself. But now he asked the sharper question: who benefits if you believe it? And the answer was clear. Whoever collects the fruit of your hard work benefits enormously when you believe that hard work alone is the path. Because a man who believes this will push harder and harder, blame himself when the reward does not come, and push harder still, never once stopping to ask why his effort does not multiply, or who is quietly harvesting what that effort produces. It is the perfect belief to install in someone whose labor you depend on. It keeps him striving, grateful for the chance to strive, and convinced that any failure is his own for not striving enough. The boy saw that the advice was not a lie exactly. Hard work matters. But it was a half-truth aimed precisely to keep a man working hard for someone else, forever, in the belief that the reward was always just one more season of effort away. 2 sentences then, taught with love, that quietly build a lifetime of laboring in another man's field. But the third piece of advice is more insidious still, because it wears the mask of humility and virtue. The third piece of advice is the most insidious of all, because it does not sound like advice about money. It sounds like wisdom about life. Money isn't everything. Money doesn't buy happiness. Wanting wealth is greed. The boy heard this constantly, and always from the same direction. Spoken to the poor, to soothe them, to make them feel that their lack was somehow noble. And it worked. A man who has little can bear it far more easily if he believes that wanting more would make him a worse person. So he stops wanting. He calls his resignation contentment, and his surrender wisdom, and he feels virtuous about staying exactly where he is. But the boy asked his question: who benefits if the poor believe this? And the answer was chilling in its simplicity. Those who already have wealth benefit when everyone below them feels ashamed to reach for it, because a poor man who is proud of not wanting money will never compete for it, never build toward it, never become a rival. His shame is a leash, and he holds it himself. The boy noticed that the wealthy never seemed burdened by this belief. They pursued and protected their fortunes without a flicker of guilt. It was only the poor who were taught that desiring wealth was a sin, and they were taught it, conveniently, by a world that preferred fewer people climbing. Wanting to provide, to be free, to never fear a bad season, the boy could find nothing shameful in that. The shame had been installed deliberately to keep good people from ever reaching for the thing that would free them. The fourth piece of advice completes the trap. Don't take risks. Play it safe. Hold on to what little you have. This one feels like pure prudence, and to the frightened, it feels like love. But the boy asked who benefits, and saw it at once. Whoever wants you out of the game entirely. Because the man who never risks anything never builds anything, and a man who builds nothing is no threat and no competitor. He simply stays where he is, guarding his small pile, while others take the chances that create fortunes. The advice sounds like protection. In truth, it is a set of chains that the frightened man locks onto himself, believing he is being wise. The boy had already learned the deeper truth, that a life of pure safety is the slowest form of ruin, because the man who risks nothing guarantees that nothing ever changes. Play it safe keeps the poor standing perfectly still, congratulating themselves on their caution, while the world moves on without them. It is the ideal advice to give someone you would rather not have to compete with. So now 3 more sentences fall into the pattern: shame at wanting, fear of risking, pride in standing still. But the cruelest advice of all is still to come, because it does not merely discourage you, it actively wears the mask of financial wisdom and points you at the wrong thing entirely. The 5th piece of advice is the cruelest, because unlike the others, it actually pretends to be a path to wealth. The others tell you not to want money or not to risk for it. This one promises to make you rich and points you at exactly the wrong thing. The secret is to save on the small things, cut the little luxuries, skip the small indulgence, watch your pennies, and prosperity will follow. The boy heard this everywhere, and it sounded so responsible, so mature, that almost no one thought to question it. Give up your small daily pleasure, the advice said, and one day, you will be wealthy. And he watched people follow it faithfully, denying themselves tiny comforts, feeling disciplined and wise, tracking every small coin they did not spend. Yet somehow, year after year, they never became rich. They only became people who had given up small pleasures and gotten nothing in return. So the boy asked his question: who benefits if you believe that wealth is built by cutting small expenses? And the answer revealed the whole trick. This advice benefits anyone who does not want you to look up. Because while you are staring down at your pennies, agonizing over a small indulgence, you are not doing the one thing that actually changes a life: increasing and multiplying what comes in. The advice chains your entire attention to the smallest, least important part of the equation and keeps it there. The boy did the arithmetic in his head, and it was brutal. A man could deny himself every small pleasure for an entire year and save a modest handful of coins. The same man, if he turned that attention upward, toward learning a rarer skill, building a second stream, creating something that earned, or finding a way to be paid more for his value, could gain many times that amount and gain it again the next year and the year after. Saving pennies has a floor. You cannot spend less than nothing. But increasing what you earn and multiplying what you own has no ceiling at all. The advice traps a man in the one game that cannot be won and keeps him out of the only game that can. And this is why it is the most insidious of the five. It does not feel like a chain. It feels like financial wisdom. The man following it believes he is doing exactly the right thing: being frugal, being disciplined, being responsible. While his real fortune, the one waiting on the upper side of the ledger, goes forever unbuilt. He is kept busy, kept virtuous, and kept poor all at once. The boy noticed that the wealthy men of Florence had not built their fortunes by skipping small comforts. Not one of them. They had built them by expanding the top of the ledger relentlessly while barely thinking about the bottom. They watched their pennies, yes, but they never mistook watching pennies for the path to wealth. 5 pieces of advice then, and beneath all 5 runs a single quiet purpose. The boy laid all 5 pieces of advice side by side, and the single purpose beneath them rose into view. Every one of them, from every direction, pushed a person in the exact same way. Get a safe job. Become a reliable worker. Work hard and wait for reward. Keep laboring in another man's field. Don't want money. Feel ashamed to ever reach for more. Don't take risks. Stay frozen where you are. Cut your small pleasures. Stare down at pennies and never look up. Follow all 5, and you have built a specific kind of person. Obedient, striving, ashamed of ambition, afraid of risk, and obsessed with the wrong end of the ledger. You have built the perfect person to be extracted from, and you have done it to yourself, believing every step of the way that you were being wise. And here, the boy returned to the truth he had been careful about from the start. There is no room of villains behind this. That is what makes it so durable. This advice spreads because it serves the ones who repeat it. The master who needs workers, the seller who needs spenders, and most of all, the millions of good people who were handed these lies, believed them, and now pass them lovingly to their own children as wisdom. The cage is inherited. Everyone inside it is sincere. That is exactly why it holds so well. So the boy did not become bitter, and he did not become paranoid, deciding that all advice was a trap, and everyone was against him. That would have been its own kind of prison. Instead, he kept the single tool that had cut through all of it. One quiet question, asked of every piece of money advice he would ever hear for the rest of his life. Who benefits if I believe this? If the honest answer was me, he listened. If the answer was someone else, he did not necessarily reject it, but he examined it in full daylight before he ever let it shape his life. That question is the whole of it. It cannot be taken from you. It costs nothing. And it turns you from someone advice is done to into someone who weighs advice for himself. The poor of Florence were not poor because they were foolish. They were poor because they accepted, unexamined, the sentences that served everyone but them. And the few who rose were simply the ones who learned to ask who each sentence was really for. Most people will hear this, nod, and go on repeating the same advice that keeps them where they are, and hand it someday to their own children. A few will start asking the question tonight. The boy could not tell you which you will be. Only the advice you dare to examine can. If you intend to be one of the few, then follow this boy. Because every fable here teaches the one thing no one else will: how the world of money actually works. The next lesson is already waiting.